Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law. I hope you're well. We're here with a reaction and response video to our friend of the left's Legal Eagle, who a few moments ago has come out with a video entitled The Political Depravity of Unjust Pardons, which is particularly sanctimonious. Now, I find Legal Eagle to be a bit sanctimonious, to say it mildly, on normal occasions. So I found this to be of particular sanctimony, and I think you will too. Standing a little bit on our high horse. And I would also take note that Legal Eagle ostensibly is trying to provide legal education and legal analysis, sometimes poorly, but he's trying to do it. For example, even in this Captain Marvel analysis, which I disagreed with sharply, he was at least trying to provide some legal analysis. Poorly and misleadingly, and in contravention to all known legal analysis, but at least he was providing legal analysis. Today it's just opinion and sanctimony and just being angry at the world. So we're going to watch some of this and we're going to respond to it. So I suppose I will give the content disclaimer at this point. This video will contain Legal Eagle. So, we're going to have to listen to it and watch it in order to respond to it. So just be forewarned, Legal Eagle is involved in this. All right, so let's do that. Let's respond to Legal Eagle. So we'll do a little picture-in-picture here with Mr. Eagle, and we will respond to him and all of his fun stuff. Good times. Let's do this thing.
I actually don't know where to start. I'm so furious, and I'm so sad for our country that
I just love that long, listful pause, that dramatic pause. I'm so sad for our country. I just, that long, reserved, silent pause to show the full measure of my disgust. I can't even say the words. So let me pause for a good 4 seconds or 5 seconds to just really let that disgust sit in the air. My sanctimony and disgust at the world of it all. And you don't know where to start. Well, here might be a reasonable place to start, just as a suggestion. Since you're discussing pardons, perhaps you could start with the Constitution. You could start with the constitutional text. That might be a good place to start. You could start with what it actually says in the Constitution. You could actually put the verbiage on screen about what it actually says, that the president has the power to issue pardons and the exact language thereof. And you could actually, discuss that if you were so inclined. I suppose there's no reason for you to do that because, you're not really interested in starting with legal text. We just want to start with the feelings. All right. We do not approve, so we don't need legal text. This is yeah, all right, fine.
they claim to be the party of law and order. The hypocrisy makes it feel like ash in my mouth to even say it.
You do understand that pardons are part of the law, so you could believe in law and order and also believe in pardons because they're part of the legal system, but pardons taste like ash in your mouth. I'll remember that next time some of your people are pardoned or some of the people you like are pardoned. Maybe we'll see if you feel the ash in your mouth at that point. Okay.
Because there's no depth, no illegality to which the president will not stoop. It's just
Pardons are not illegal. They are part of the legal system. Not only they're not illegal, they're specifically mentioned in the Constitution. You know, that thing that you, Devin Stone, also took an oath to uphold and protect. And I know that because every lawyer does. So that pesky document. Pardons are not illegal. They're specifically legal. Very specifically legal. Constitutionally legal, even. Yeah.
astounding.
More dramatic pause. More dramatic pause for the Emmy. I can't even speak. I can't even move my hand. The drama is so thick. He's really got the pregnant pause thing down. It makes me sick. How am I doing on my Devin Stone impersonation? Is it working for you guys? Okay, let's press on.
The president has completed what appears to be the first raft of pardons in the lame duck period. It's a murderer's row of the unpardonable. Though an actual row of murderers are probably less morally blameworthy than the people that actually received the pardons. Actual war criminals who were responsible for killing innocent Iraqi citizens, including...
Okay, I need to really fully appreciate the juxtaposition of these two things, because he said actual murderers would be more pardonable. And then he immediately said they would be more pardonable than these people who committed murder. The juxtapositional irony is real. He says literal murderers would be more pardonable than the people that Trump pardoned, including literal murderers. He said that it wasn't even one sentence after another. I think it was one continuous sentence. I think we have to go back and because he's like, actual murderers would be more pardonable than actual murderers. Let's just go back and really appreciate the juxtapositional irony. Like, listen to the words coming out of your own mouth as you're saying them might be helpful.
A murderer's row of the unpardonable. Though an actual row of murderers are probably less morally blameworthy than the people that actually received the pardons. Actual war criminals who were responsible for killing innocent Iraqi citizens, including women and children.
The juxtapositional irony is real. Actual murderers would be more pardonable than the people Trump pardoned, who include these actual murderers. I mean, it is one sentence literally followed by another sentence. My memory does go back at least one sentence back in time. I do remember that far back. I remember he said where literal murderers would be more pardonable than these people who committed murders. Okay. All right.
Ridiculously corrupt politicians like Chris Collins and Duncan Hunter, who were convicted of and were about to serve extensive prison sentences related to insider trading and also embezzling campaign funds, including but not limited to spending those campaign funds on extramarital affairs. Actual traitors to this country.
Is that slut shaming there, where he says that they spend it on the extramarital affairs? Because obviously spending it on extramarital affairs would probably not be in compliance with the campaign finance law, but he's making it as a special point of moral condemnation. So is he making the point that extramarital affairs are particularly bad? So is he slut shaming? Is he engaging in slut shaming because he's making them bad because of the extramarital affairs? I'm just curious. I'm just interesting where these ethics lines are. What are the rules?
Like Paul Manafort, who was a direct conduit to the Russians through Konstantin Kilimnik and Oleg Deripaska. And, of course, the president's cronies, including, but not limited to, Paul Manafort, but also Roger Stone and George Papadopoulos.
I just have to say, whatever else George Papadopoulos might be guilty of, he's got style. So, I don't know. He's got style. That looks like a GQ shoot. He's coming out of the car, presumably at his trial or whatever. I mean, he's coming out of this car, presumably at his trial, where would be this photo is taken. And the man looks like a GQ cover shoot. So he's got style points. You got to give him style points, man.
There's just no end to the depravity. This is unprecedented in its baseness, in its venality.
Okay, that's just some BS right there. That is some BS to say that this is without precedent. BS. Politically based pardons and politically favored pardons are in no sense new or unique, and depending on your point of view, are not even particularly more in this administration than other administrations. Politically influenced or politically giving pardons for political favors has been pretty much known throughout the history of time when it comes to pardons. This is just some BS. This is without precedent. Yeah, no, you can find people criticizing pardons for political reasons and political expediency throughout all times. This is unprecedented. No, that's just BS.
Just never seen anything like this in the U.S.
We've seen things like this in the U.S. quite a lot. This is not new. People who are political allies of the person getting pardoned is not exactly new or even special in this administration, amazingly enough.
Effectively, every significant defendant who refused to cooperate with both the Mueller investigation and also just main justice have now been pardoned. The only exceptions being Rick Gates and Michael Cohen, both of whom actually testified and cooperated against the president.
Okay, we could make a point of pointing out that the Mueller investigation was kind of ultimately, and perhaps even from its beginnings, kind of BS. Because this is Russiagate. That's the Mueller investigation, is Russiagate. The entire thing was predicated on an illegally obtained dossier, the Steele dossier. And it was illegally based on improper FISA warrants that were obtained under false and political pretenses. The entire Mueller investigation was based on the Steele dossier, which itself was based on politically issued and probably illegal warrants because of lies and perjury committed to the FISA court. So the entire Mueller investigation was based on a false predicate. And also, even more to the point, the Mueller investigation itself proved that there was nothing there. There was no there. Anyone remember during the Mueller investigation how they said, well, this is going to be the death nail, this is going to be a death nail, and then you came to the end and it's like, there was nothing there. They weren't able to prove anything. Then there was not even really many allegations when it came to actual Russia involvement or Russia in malfeasance. The whole Mueller investigation was a political witch hunt from start to finish. It was based off the Steele dossier, which was illegally obtained and was based off illegally created information. The whole thing was tainted from stem to stern. From the very start, it was a politically derived witch hunt, and so giving pardons for people involved in the Mueller investigation when the whole thing was politically tainted, politically motivated, and this isn't. I want to be clear here because I want to be clear in what I am saying and what I am not saying. I'm not blaming Mueller himself. For me. You might blame Mueller. I personally don't. I think Mueller did a fine job. He did a fine job with a crappy predicate. He was handed a crap sandwich, and he was told to do a good job as an attorney. Now, me personally, and this is me, and you may disagree, I think Mueller himself and his team actually did a very good job. I think they were thorough. I think they were as fair as they knew how to be, and I think that they approached the situation properly. So when I say the Mueller investigation was crap, I'm not blaming Mueller. I'm blaming how that came to be. I'm blaming it being based off of false pretenses. I'm blaming the whole political witch hunt that caused Mueller to come into his role. I'm blaming the Steele dossier. I'm blaming the FISA warrants, right? The whole thing was predicated on crap. And then they said to an attorney, here's a whole bunch of crap. Please do the best you can with it. And he did the best he could with it. And he, through his efforts and his diligence, proved the crap. So I'm not blaming Mueller himself. I'm blaming everything. There's like, here's a bunch of shit. And then Mueller said, well, all I have is a pile of shit. He was, he reported what he had, and But to say, well, we're going to pardon people who were involved in this entire political witch hunt that was predicated on a bunch of lies and illegally obtained FISA warrants doesn't seem that strange or weird to me, because the whole thing was a 2-year waste of everyone's time.
And this is tin pot dictator banana republic level corruption. If this seems like comic book villainy, that's because it is. This is not a close case. This is not an issue of red versus blue. This is just
It's a little bit of a case of red versus blue. Again, we could go back in time and we could talk about some of the political pardons of some other people, and some of them being criticized for their politics. This is not new. This is a little bit red versus blue. This is a little bit, you're unhappy with these political pardons because you don't like this political side. And you think the Mueller investigation was the greatest thing ever predicated on truth and hope and dreams, and it was only because the mean Trump administration didn't go anywhere, rather than a big fabricated fairy tale from start to stern.
Pure flat out corruption. And I guess let's start with the bad news, because on some levels, this is worse than it appears. It's not just that the morally reprehensible and actual criminals have been pardoned.
It's bad that the actual the actual criminals have been pardoned. Not to put too fine a point on it, but people who haven't committed crimes don't need pardons because they haven't committed crimes. The entire point of pardons is to absolve people legally for crimes against the United States, crimes and offenses against the United States. So the pardons going to actual criminals, that's kind of how pardons work. You can't really pardon the innocent. I mean, I guess you could. There's just nothing really to pardon them of. So I suppose you could pardon the innocent, but what would be the point? There's no offense to pardon them of. So yeah, we're pardoning the actual criminals, as opposed to who? And also, we're pardoning people who are morally reprehensible. Again, most people who are criminals are somewhat morally reprehensible. There are some things out there for which you could say a person who is a criminal is not a moral offender. I mean, you could make at least arguments in some cases that the person is not morally bad, even if they're legally bad, because morals and law are different. But to say they're morally reprehensible, kind of true of many criminals. So, like, again, as opposed to who, in some degree.
It's that this threatens the very fabric of our justice system. In part because this is just the opening act. There's no reason to think that President Trump is going to stop with these pardons. In fact, there's very good reason to think that this is just out there to get people tired, that the worst pardons are yet to come. And it's the usual suspects who are the obvious candidates here. There's no reason to think that the president will refrain from pardoning Jared Kushner, pardoning Bill Barr, pardoning himself, Ivanka, Don Jr., Alan Weisselberg, the CFO of the Trump Organization. But President Trump doesn't have those lines.
I mean, he might pardon these people because he's well aware of the political witch hunt. See, the thing is, like, even if these people are truly innocent, and so there's nothing really to pardon them for as such, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't undergo years and years of potentially pointless investigations, including legal fees. And they might get someone like a Judge Sullivan who will completely ignore the law, and then we're hoping that some court of appeals will ultimately reverse them. So the reason, I don't know, are any of these people particularly accused of any offenses? I mean, not that I'm particularly aware of, but you might pardon them just because people will be investigating them for nothing. It'll just be another Mueller investigation all over again. It's like, let's start another investigation to look into Kushner and Ivanka and Bill Barr and blah, 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 just because we want to be politically vindictive. So even if they are not guilty, they're innocent at the end of the day. It doesn't mean that justice can't ruin their lives for years because of the political witch hunts. So I suppose I have to modify my previous comment that pardons are kind of pointless in one sense of if you're actually innocent. I mean, they're pointless in the sense that you can't really pardon someone who's innocent because that doesn't really make sense. But you can stop the political witch hunt, even if the law would ultimately come to the end, because, why should people have to undergo years and years of political and fake legal persecution when there's really no there just because we want to ruin their lives because we want to feel vindictive. So, yeah, maybe Trump will pardon these people. It doesn't imply that they're necessarily guilty of anything, but it might imply that we don't want another Mueller investigation because you did it the first time because you thought it was a super great idea.
He doesn't feel shame, and he doesn't give a damn about political norms. Because what happened here...
And you do. You give a damn about political norms? Okay, let's go with that.
...is a really, really big deal. President Trump is pardoning a whole bunch of people who engaged in criminality in furtherance of the president's own agenda, for his own campaign, and for other reasons that benefit President Trump personally. Because the problem with pardoning people who engage in actual criminality for the benefit of the sitting president, if the president is allowed to pardon and absolve guilt after the fact, there's a million ways for a sitting president to grift that. Let's take an extreme example. We often talk about how the president could kill someone on Fifth Avenue. But what if the president hired someone to kill a political opponent and then decided to pardon them? Or a less extreme example, let's call it stochastic terrorism, where the president just says, hey, it'd be really great if someone killed my main political rival. And then if you actually pardoned that person, which potentially the president could do, well, then it just incentivizes actual murder of political opponents.
Okay, so let's just deal with this stochastic terrorism thing. As legal eagle probably should know, as a lawyer and as a legal educator, the courts are fairly clear that when it comes to criminalizing incitement, it has to be imminent harm. You are allowed to encourage people to break the law. You can only ban imminent harm. So he calls it stochastic terrorism or something because we want to make it sound really, really bad. But as a legal educator, he probably should mention that it is legal to encourage people to break the law in general. You can say that it would be good for people to break this law. It would be good for that. That would be legal. Because it's not incitement. Incitement has a fairly specific legal definition. The key element of incitement is it has to be imminent. Maybe you should mention this as a legal educator. Maybe that would be good to mention. But you want to call it stochastic terrorism or whatever, so you want to borrow a term terrorism, which also incidentally has legal definitions, and you want to borrow this to apply to something that is not terroristic. It's advocacy, which is generally legal. You might not be able to advocate it to someone in specific, so you might not be able to direct it to a particular person, because that might be accessory. So if you're directing it to a particular person, that might be accessory. So you have to make statements in general. So if you are saying in general it would be good for someone to break this law, that's just advocacy. That's law. Do you want to mention that at any point of legal education to say it would be good for people to break the law? There's some laws you think people should be breaking. I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. Maybe you think no one should break any law ever. But you might want to mention the legal standards that apply. Talk about what does or does not apply as legally incitement. What does or does not apply as being a legal accessory. If you're not encouraging a particular person, you're just making general statements. It's not going to happen right now. Generally speaking, legal. You don't want to mention that. You just want to call it terrorism so it sounds bad. Okay, that's all right. That's an option.
And while that's obviously extreme, Vladimir Putin has tried this twice with his main political rival, Alexei Navalny. And obviously there's a state law issue here. Murder is...
You're wrong, Kurt. Murder for hire is not legal. When did I say murder for hire is legal? Nate the lawyer's trying to correct me. When did I say... Yeah, well, murder for hire isn't encouraging someone to break the law. That's different, because you've engaged, if you have murder for hire. So Nate the lawyer is trying to correct me. And so I'll try to respond back to be a little bit more precise with what I was saying. So yeah, murder for hire is definitely not legal, because at that point you've engaged in a contract, right? So you actually have said, if you kill this, I mean, in the strictest way, if you kill this person, I will give you this benefit, right? You are engaging in a quid pro quo. So that's not merely like encouraging it would be good for people to engage in murder. That's a lot more specific. That's why I was trying to say things like, in general, it would be okay to advocate in general for there to be non-imminent, as long as it's non-imminent. And then I made a point of saying that would be different than being an accessory. So murder for hire would be a more extreme version of that, because not only are you encouraging now a specific person, you're actually engaging in a contractual relationship with that person for murder for hire, all right? So it's not merely it would be good for a person to murder. Now it would be good for you to commit a murder, not only of in general, but of the specific person. And not only that, but I will pay you or offer you other benefit or remuneration, right? So I was trying to say something very specific. I was definitely not trying to say murder for hire was legal at any point. So if someone came away for that impression, that was not what I was trying to say. But it would be, generally speaking, legal for a person to encourage someone to that murder would be good. It would be good if somebody committed this murder. That would be generally legal, because you're not directing it to a specific person. You're not making it imminent. You know, they're not making it, they're not an accessory. You're not offering any benefit. So if Nate wants to correct me further on that, I'm more than happy to, but yeah, I was definitely not saying murder for hire was legal. Also, generally speaking, it's not legal to engage in a conspiracy of any kind, because that's also a little bit more. Because now you have an active agreement between two parties and an act in furtherance thereof, which murder for hire is just a specific kind of conspiracy. It's a conspiracy to commit murder for hire. Yeah, so yeah, it's also, so there's, and also because you have the underlying act and the conspiracy, which you can charge separately. So anyways, but it's not important. But yeah, I was definitely not saying murder for hire was legal. Go rob that bank. If you're directing it to a specific person, you might have a problem. If you're saying it would be good for somebody to rob that bank, that's legal, I think, unless Nate wants to correct me on that. If I said it would be good for somebody to rob the bank, if I were to say it would be good for somebody to rob the bank and the bank gets robbed, that's just general advocacy. That's not illegal, unless Nate wants to correct me on that. Unless they can prove something more specific. Unless they can prove that I really was giving a direct command to somebody. That would be a different thing altogether. So like, so this would be another element of proof. Like, it'd be what's really happening in reality. So if I made a general statement of it would be good for someone to rob the bank, and that was the statement, so it seems like a general advocacy. But in reality, I had a prior arrangement with somebody, right, who is watching me, and be like, it would be good for somebody, and be like, well, what they're really commanding me to do it, right, because I have a prior arrangement. So the scenario there would be like, this would be like a mob. Would be the classic scenario here, right? So suppose a mob boss says it would be good if someone were to kill person so-and-so. Now that seems like general advocacy. But if a person in my mob organization knows from prior relationships that what I'm really doing, so it appears I'm making a general advocacy statement, but what I'm really doing is I'm ordering a direct hit, and now that's a problem, because now I'm making a direct command. So it appears like I'm making a general advocacy statement, but what I'm really doing is I'm implementing a prior agreement, right? So if you can prove that there's really something else going on beyond that, other than what it appears to be on the surface, that would be one thing too. And so, yeah. And so, if I said it would be good for someone to rob X bank tomorrow and X bank tomorrow gets robbed, the police are probably going to have a question for me or two. And at that point, I should shut my mouth because I can probably only talk myself into problems. I should probably ask for a lawyer and ask to remain silent because I'm probably going to talk myself into a conspiracy or accessory charges when that's not really what happened. But Nate makes some valid points. I was trying to make a much more specific, much more narrow point. So hopefully some of that makes sense. Or not. If Nate wants to call me, Nate, do you want to get on stream? We could just redo this complete thing and you correct me. I mean, Nate is a former prosecutor. So maybe he thinks I'm not being clear enough. If Nate thinks do you want to get on the stream? I could just kill the entire stream and we could have a discussion about specifically this. That would be actually legally educational. Where if I'm not making what I'm saying precisely clear, so that people are very clear about where the boundaries of this are or are not, then let me know. Let me know if Nate wants to drop in. If Nate wants to correct me, I mean, he is a former prosecutor. So, but yeah, I'm trying to say some very, very precise things. If I'm really engaging in a conspiracy, if I'm really engaging in accessory, if it seems like a general command, but that's not really what's happening, sure, let's do it. Great. All right, fantastic. Let's just kill the stream. We'll kill this. Well, here's what we'll do. We'll make this members only. And I'll hop on a stream with Nate, and we can either criticize. Yeah, we'll criticize this video together. Critique this video from square one together. And we can have discussions on what would or would not be legal precisely when it comes to advocating for law breaking. And that might be fun, where the boundaries are. And we can try to be very, very precise as legal educators. So we're going to try to be very precise in our language. Unlike legal, who's not even attempting. But yeah, let's get Nate on. So yeah, we'll make this stream members only, and we will start a new stream, I guess. That seems like a reasonable thing to do. So yeah, if you liked this stream, please like it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you'd like to become a member, and Nate and I will try to get back on, and we'll try to be more precise as legal educators on exactly what is legal when it comes to encouraging or advocating the illegal. Ooh. So we'll go from there. Yeah, we'll go from there. I will see you on a minute. I'll send Nate a link. See you. Bye.